As I step into the odd, winding journey of a man who turned eccentricity into an empire, it's clear that Weird Al Yankovic didn't just parody music, he rewrote the rules of fame. At 65, the curly-haired accordion master is finally shedding light on the personal code he quietly lived by all these years. He never chased fame at the expense of integrity. He became a vegetarian in the early 90s, insisted on asking artists for permission to parody their songs even when legally unnecessary, and refused to bend his values. After winning 5 Grammys and selling over 12 million albums, he now reveals that staying true to his quirks was the boldest move he ever made. Alfred Yankovic was born October 23, 1959, in the unassuming town of Downey, California. He was the only child of Nick and Mary Yankovic, a modest couple who worked regular jobs, Nick in a factory and Mary as a secretary, but raised their son with intense protectiveness. He didn't spend afternoons riding bikes with neighborhood kids or attending sleepovers. Instead, he was often indoors, isolated. His father, in an effort to shield him from trouble, even warned him about the dangers of girls. It may have sounded extreme, but this isolation gave young Alfred something rare: space to let his mind wander into the weird and wonderful. Then, just before his 7th birthday, a door-to-door salesman knocked on the Yankovic family's door, offering music lessons. The choice was simple: guitar or accordion. His parents, charmed by the coincidence of sharing a surname with polka king Frankie Yankovic, chose the latter. That single decision sparked a lifelong passion. With time on his hands and no distractions, Al poured himself into the instrument. After 3 years of lessons, he taught himself the rest. Everything changed the day he stumbled upon Elton John's "Goodbye Yellow Brick Road." The melody, the emotion, it hit him like a lightning bolt. He played it obsessively on his accordion. In that moment, he discovered his creative voice through one of the oddest instruments in modern music. But life didn't get easier. Starting school early and skipping a grade left him younger and more awkward than his peers. By 16, he was already a college freshman at Cal Poly, living in dorm room 43G at Sierra Madre Tower. His eccentric habits, like refusing to walk to the showers in just a towel, made him the butt of jokes. One prank left him striding back to his room wrapped in a plastic shower curtain. The nickname Weird Al was born out of mockery, but Al did the unexpected. He embraced it. In high school, he had already carved out a niche for himself. Not the sports star, not the prom king, but a valedictorian, yearbook caption writer, and founder of a satirical club called the Volcano Worshippers. He wasn't trying to fit in. He was busy standing out. At Cal Poly, he chose architecture, a stable path, but even there, his creative instincts broke through. Once, a professor caught him playing his accordion into a urinal for acoustics before a big project deadline. He wasn't slacking. He'd already finished the assignment. Al was always one step ahead, operating in his own reality. His big break began humbly. During his 2nd year of college, he snagged a DJ spot at KCPR, the student radio station. It was the perfect stage. Weird Al became his on-air identity, and he leaned into the chaos, spinning oddball tracks, cracking absurd jokes, and building a strange kind of following. One story says he flushed a toilet live on air. Whether myth or truth, it captured the energy he brought. That tiny booth helped shape his future. In 1978, he took his first real swing with a parody song called "Take Me Down," poking fun at local landmarks in San Luis Obispo. It was quirky, charming, and undeniably Al. But everything truly kicked off in the most unexpected place: a college restroom. With an accordion, a tape recorder, and some serious nerve, he recorded "My Bologna," a parody of the Knack's hit "My Sharona." The acoustics were perfect. He sent it to comedy radio legend Dr. Demento, and the reaction was electric. Audiences couldn't get enough. Then came a surreal twist of fate. The Knack performed at Al's college. Nervously waiting backstage, he met lead singer Doug Fieger, who, instead of brushing him off, turned to a Capitol Records exec and said, "You should release this." And they did, $500 and a physical release later. My Bologna sold 10,000 copies by the end of 1979. It wasn't superstardom yet, but it was a spark. Despite growing popularity on Dr. Demento's show, the music industry wasn't convinced. Parody songs were considered gimmicks. Most labels said no, but Al wasn't about to quit. In 1982, he created I Love Rocky Road, a comedic spin on Joan Jett's I Love Rock and Roll. Rick Derringer helped produce it. The track landed on an LA radio station, and the response was immediate. People were hooked. That buzz caught the attention of Tad Dow at Rock and Roll Records, and soon Al had his first real record deal. In 1983, his debut album hit shelves. It was weird, hilarious, and pure Al. It featured revamped versions of My Bologna, Ricky, a parody of Tony Basil's Mickey, centered on I Love Lucy, and the outrageous Another One Rides the Bus. Touring across the East Coast and Midwest, Al finally stood in front of audiences who got the joke and loved it. With Dr. Demento's backing and a music video on the freshly launched MTV, his unique brand began to gain real traction. But fame wasn't always kind. That same year, his band was asked to open for new wave group Missing Persons. It was supposed to be a big break. Instead, it was brutal. The crowd wasn't there for comedy. They booed, heckled, and threw things for nearly an hour. Walking back to his car, shaken, Al was stopped by a young fan. "Are you Weird Al Yankovic?" the boy asked. Al, still reeling, replied, "Yes, I am." The boy looked him in the eye and said, "You suck." That moment could have broken him. Instead, it became his compass. From then on, Al vowed never to waste time performing for the wrong crowd. He would only perform for people who understood his humor, who wanted to laugh, who were looking for something different. That clarity changed everything. Because Weird Al didn't become a legend by trying to be someone else, he became one by staying unapologetically himself. He broke the rules without ever breaking character. Weird Al Yankovic didn't storm into the industry. He waltzed in with an accordion, a crooked grin, and a sense of humor sharp enough to cut through the noise of a pop-saturated world. Back in 1983, parody wasn't supposed to make headlines, let alone win awards. But when Al unleashed Eat It, his cheeky twist on Michael Jackson's Beat It, on an unsuspecting world in early 1984, he flipped the script entirely. Few expected it to chart, let alone go global. Yet it climbed to number 12 in the US, and even knocked Michael off the top spot in Australia. That wasn't just a parody, it was a moment. And every frame of that music video mimicked Jackson's original with hilarious precision. What made it even better? Al had personally called Michael, and Jackson, ever the showman, said yes. That blessing led Al straight to his first Grammy win, and a brand of fame that was entirely his own. Audiences couldn't get enough of the wild curls, neon Hawaiian shirts, and of course, that unmistakable accordion. His identity wasn't just in the music. It was the image, the performance, the whole package. And then came the food songs. Lots of them. By 1993, his label couldn't resist cashing in and pushed out the Food Album, a collection of 10 culinary parodies that fans devoured. Al wasn't thrilled. To him, it felt more like a marketing ploy than a creative triumph. Ironically, one track he despised, Girls Just Want to Have Lunch, made the cut only because the label demanded it. But no matter how he felt, food-themed parodies stuck to him like peanut butter to jelly. Even Kurt Cobain took notice. When Al approached the grunge icon to parody Smells Like Teen Spirit, Cobain's first question was half joking. "It's not about food, is it?" That moment said it all. Al's reputation preceded him. And yet even Cobain, a symbol of anti-mainstream culture, was charmed. It wasn't just about songs. On April Fool's Day in 1984, MTV handed Al the keys to their airwaves. What followed was pure chaos and genius. ALTV, a faux broadcast filled with mock interviews, his own videos, and wildly weird skits. It was unpredictable, absurd, and impossible to ignore. Over 2 decades, he made 10 of these specials, each one redefining the limits of musical comedy. MTV needed content. Al delivered something unforgettable. In a time before viral clips and internet fame, he turned television airtime into performance art. But his road wasn't smooth. After the failure of Polka Party, Al needed a win. In 1988, he struck gold with Even Worse. Released on April 12th, it soared to number 27 on the Billboard 200 and stayed there for 26 weeks. Within 3 months, it earned gold status and eventually went platinum. At the heart of this success was Fat, his parody of Bad, which dominated MTV and earned another Grammy. His appearance on Family Double Dare later that year became a cult moment, and for the first time in years, everything seemed to click again. But then came UHF. Al's foray into film looked promising. Test audiences gave it high scores, on par with RoboCop. For a moment it seemed like he was about to conquer the silver screen too. But the summer of 1989 was unforgiving. UHF was buried beneath cinematic giants like Batman, Indiana Jones, and Ghostbusters 2. The movie disappeared from theaters by July's end, and the fallout was brutal. For 3 long years, Al wrestled with disappointment. He called it the lowest creative period of his life. Studios who once saw him as a rising star now wouldn't take his calls. Friends in the business kept their distance. It was like he carried a stigma. He wasn't sure he could recover. Though he didn't label it as depression, the weight of failure was crushing. He spent those years questioning everything: his path, his passion, and whether comedy still had a place for him. During this low point, he also ended his collaboration with longtime producer Rick Derringer, who had helped mold Al's first 5 albums. They had created magic together. But Al felt it was time to take the reins and produce his own work. It was a leap he needed to make, not just to reinvent himself, but to survive in a rapidly changing music industry. Then, in 1992, came the spark. Al had his sights set on Nirvana. He wanted to parody Smells Like Teen Spirit, but red tape blocked him at every turn. So he did what any truly weird genius would do. He called Kurt Cobain directly at Saturday Night Live. Cobain, ever the rebel, said yes immediately. That moment changed everything. Smells Like Nirvana wasn't just funny. It was timely, razor-sharp, and spot-on. It poked fun at the band's unintelligible lyrics, but did so with respect. It even featured real cheerleaders from the original video. And just like that, Al was back. Off the Deep End, the album that followed, marked the end of Al's creative drought. From there, he soared. Alapalooza landed in 1993, followed by Bad Hair Day in 1996. The latter opened at number 14 on the Billboard charts and delivered Amish Paradise, a spin on Coolio's Gangsta's Paradise. The track became a cultural phenomenon. For many fans, these albums were more than comedy. They were entry points into 90s music itself. Just when it seemed like Weird Al Yankovic had explored every possible twist in his personal evolution, he pulled off another surprise, ditching meat completely. What started as a quiet shift toward vegetarianism turned into a lifelong commitment, even if he occasionally joked about slipping up with dairy. Back in the early 90s, touring as a vegetarian felt like a punishment. His meal options were reduced to sad truck stop toast or applesauce. But times changed, and so did menus. Today, Al can find plant-based meals in nearly every corner of the world. Yet he never used his fame to preach. He separated his diet from his art, keeping it personal and off the stage. But change wasn't just on his plate. It was also in his eyes. In 1998, Al underwent LASIK eye surgery at UCLA's Jules Stein Eye Institute, turning a deeply personal procedure into a public event. His vision was so bad that he couldn't even make out the largest letters on an eye chart unless his face was inches away. So, in classic Al fashion, he let cameras roll while Dr. Robert Maloney zapped away his nearsightedness. It was absurd, vulnerable, and pure aluminum. Afterward, he said goodbye to his signature thick glasses, adding another twist to his ever-evolving identity. A year later, fans barely recognized him when he debuted a clean-shaven face and long hair during the release of Running with Scissors. He joked, "If Madonna can reinvent herself every 15 minutes, I get one change every 2 decades, right?" Behind the laughter and lens changes, Al's most profound transformation came through love. Introduced to Suzanne Krajewski by a friend, their relationship blossomed over phone calls. Without even seeing her face, Al found himself falling for her, hard. When she asked about his life, he cheekily pointed her to his Behind the Music episode. Neither had married before, but both felt this was it. They tied the knot in 2001 and welcomed their daughter, Nina, in 2003. Al's voice grows tender when he speaks about her, how she connects with nature, how different she is from his own TV-filled childhood. Becoming a father seemed to deepen his gratitude for everything he'd built, reminding him that real joy often lives off-screen. Then came 2004, a year that hit Al with a devastating blow. On April 9th, both of his parents, Nick and Mary, were found lifeless in their home. They had accidentally sealed in carbon monoxide while lighting a fire. Though grief-stricken, Al made a decision that stunned even his closest friends. He stayed on tour. Just days after losing them, he took the stage, explaining that performing gave him brief moments of peace, however fleeting. It was a rare moment when his commitment to his craft and his resilience stood out more than any punchline. Through pain, he found purpose, and music once again became his escape hatch from sorrow. One might think this would make him retreat, but Al leaned into the things that made him and his fans smile. Financially, Al has built a surprising empire. Despite his modest public image, he's amassed significant wealth through music royalties, live tours, voice acting, and film deals. He's owned a Tesla Model S, known for its sleek style and eco-focus, and has been seen wearing luxury timepieces from brands like Omega and Tag Heuer. He bought a stunning Hollywood Hills home and previously owned a Tudor-style estate in the San Fernando Valley. Though he doesn't flaunt it, Al has invested in animation studios, children's content ventures, and holds stakes in music rights publishing. He's always maintained robust insurance on his vocal cords, home, and touring gear, protecting the assets that fuel his career. The financial takeaway from Al's journey is simple but powerful. Build slowly, stay authentic, diversify income streams, and never underestimate the value of intellectual property. From a parody king to a pop culture icon, Weird Al proved that comedy and heart can change the world. Like, comment, and subscribe, because the weirdest stories are often the greatest.